The mocking begins. The Galactic Empire had always looked down on Earth. To them, humanity was nothing more than a small, insignificant species in a vast universe. Earth, with its blue skies and green landscapes, was seen as a primitive world, far behind the advanced civilizations of the galaxy. The aliens laughed at the idea that Earth could ever be a threat to their might. The Empire was vast, stretching across hundreds of worlds, each one more powerful than the last. It had been centuries since humanity had shown any sign of military strength. The wars of the past were long forgotten, and Earth had been isolated, minding its own business in the corner of the galaxy. The aliens believed that this peace meant weakness. They were certain that if they ever decided to take control of Earth, it would be a simple task. One day, a massive fleet of ships from the Galactic Empire appeared near Earth's orbit. These ships were enormous, equipped with the most advanced weapons and technology that the universe had ever seen. Their commanders laughed when they looked at Earth. The planet seemed defenseless, like a toy that could be crushed with a single stomp. "Look at them," Commander Yaloth sneered, his sharp eyes scanning Earth's surface from the bridge. Of his ship, they are still living in the past. Their weapons are nothing compared to ours. This will be over before it even begins. His officers nodded in agreement. The entire fleet was ready to strike. They had been watching Earth for years, and they were confident that nothing could stop them. It wasn't just Earth they were after, it was a statement. The Empire needed to remind the galaxy of its power. The idea of Earth resisting was laughable. To them, as they prepared for the attack, they couldn't help but mock the planet. They had heard whispers of ancient human legend stories about warriors, ships, and technologies that once belonged to Earth. But to them, these were just stories, more than myths that had no place in the modern galaxy. There was no way those old legends could be true. Yaloth's ship hovered above Earth's surface. His fingers danced over the controls, adjusting the weapons systems, preparing to fire the first blow. But even as his fleet readied for attack, something began to stir on Earth. Hidden deep beneath the planet's surface, where no alien eyes could see, there lay something that had been forgotten by history. It was a weapon, an ancient weapon, something that could change the course of this invasion. No one knew it was there. Humanity had long since abandoned it, unaware of the power that still lay dormant. But deep underground, in a forgotten hangar, the Titan-Battleship Mark IX began to awaken. Its systems, powered by the energy of Earth itself, hummed back to life after centuries of silence. Meanwhile, the aliens continued their mockery. "Earth doesn't even know what it's about to face," Yaloth chuckled. He watched as the first of his fleet launched its attack on Earth's defenses, expecting nothing more than a weak resistance. This will be over before the day ends. The Empire's ships began their descent toward Earth, their weapons primed. As the first laser blast struck Earth's atmosphere, the humans, in their ignorance, had no idea what was about to unfold. They saw the bright light in the sky, but it was just another explosion to them, another threat to deal with in their already tumultuous world. But inside the forgotten hangar, the Mark IX's systems continued to power up. It was an ancient warship, its design long outdated, but it was powerful in ways that the aliens could never imagine. As the ship's massive engines roared to life, the ground around it trembled. Slowly, it began to rise from its slumber dot. Back in the alien fleet, Yaloth ordered his weapons to fire. The fleet's powerful lasers and missiles rained down on Earth, hitting the surface with devastating force. The aliens were sure they were winning. Their advanced technology seemed unbeatable, and they couldn't understand why Earth hadn't fallen already. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know about the Titan-Battleship Mark IX. As the alien fleet continued its bombardment, the Mark IX powered up, its weapons systems engaging one by one. The ship's artificial intelligence slowly began to come online, analyzing the incoming attack and preparing the ship for its response. Inside the alien fleet, the commanders were still laughing, unaware that the first signs of trouble were already starting. The Mark IX was awakening, and nothing would stop it now. "Is that all they've got?" Yelorth mocked as he watched the chaos below. "I could crush their cities with a single blow. This is almost too easy." But even as he spoke, a strange signal started to appear on his radar. It was weak at first, barely noticeable, but then it grew stronger. Something was happening, something that shouldn't be possible. His eyes widened in disbelief as the radar screens began to light up with data. "What is this?" he muttered. The signal was coming from Earth's surface. A powerful energy source was now being detected, and it was coming from somewhere beneath the ground. The signal was unlike anything the Empire had ever encountered. It was too old to be a threat, and yet it felt ... wrong. Before he could react, the ground beneath Earth's surface shook, and then, out of the darkness, the Titan-Battleship Mark IX rose, its immense form breaking through the layers of rock and soil. The ancient ship was back in action, and its weapons were aimed directly at the alien fleet. "Impossible," Yelorth gasped. "This can't be real." But it was real, and it was just the beginning. The first shot fired from the Mark IXs. Cannons pierced the sky, and a massive shockwave rippled through the alien fleet. The aliens had no time to react. Their powerful shields, which had held up against countless enemies, crumpled like paper against the Mark IX's devastating firepower. In the midst of their shock, they realized something terrible. The humans had a weapon, and it was more powerful than anything they had ever imagined. The mocking had begun, but now it was Earth's turn to show them what true power looked like. The awakening as the Titan-Battleship Mark IX surged upwards, its ancient engines roaring to life. The entire alien fleet seemed to freeze. A ripple of disbelief spread through the ranks of the Galactic Empire. What they had thought was just a mythen, ancient weapon lost to time was suddenly real. And its emergence could only mean one thing. Earth had a surprise in store for them. Commander Yelorth's confidence had evaporated in an instant. His eyes widened in shock as he watched the colossal shape of the Mark IX break through the Earth's surface. The ship was massive, much larger than any vessel in his fleet. It was an imposing structure of sleek, dark metal with sharp edges and towering engines that made it appear as though it could devour the stars themselves. "This is impossible," Yelorth muttered, his voice barely a whisper. The fleet's weapons had already been deployed against Earth's surface, but none of them had anticipated the appearance of such a behemoth. It wasn't just any ship. Was the ship a weapon from a forgotten era, capable of turning the tide of battle in a single strike? The crew aboard the alien ships scrambled to respond. They began to retarget their weapons, launching waves of missiles at the rising vessel. But the Titan-Battleship Mark IX was too fast, too powerful. With one sweep of its enormous armament, the first missiles fired at it were obliterated before they could even come close. The alien commanders watched in horror as their most advanced technology disintegrated before their eyes. But the true horror had just begun. Inside the Mark IX's command center, deep beneath the ship's surface, the ancient systems were coming back online. Years of neglect had caused the ship to shut down, but its systems had been carefully maintained, waiting for the day they would be needed again. Now, that day had arrived. As the ship's systems powered up, a soft hum filled the air. A low, mechanical voice echoed through the control room. The ship's AI coming to life after centuries of silence. Command received. Weapons ready, the AI announced, its voice resonating with a strange, almost ominous calm. Humanity's forgotten weapon was now in full operation, and its destructive force was unimaginable. The ship's weapon systems locked onto the alien fleet, the massive cannons on its side aimed directly at the approaching enemy. But before firing, the Mark IX paused, as though it were contemplating the enemy before it. The AI had access to centuries of military data, old and new, and now it was assessing how best to annihilate the threat. Outside, the alien fleet was in chaos. The vast majority of the fleet, unable to handle the power of Earth's warship, began firing blindly into the sky, hoping to find a way to break through the Titan-Battleship's shields. But it was futile. The Mark IX had been built for this very purpose. This technology was not only ancient, but far ahead of what the aliens had ever encountered. It was the kind of weapon the aliens couldn't possibly understand. His officers frantically sent out distress signals to the rest of the Empire. Their ships were falling apart under the Titan's attack. "Fall back," Yalorth screamed, his voice cracking. "We need to regroup and call for reinforcements. Earth's weapon is more powerful than we could have ever imagined." But his orders fell on deaf ears. The fleet was too disorganized, too stunned by the overwhelming power of the Mark IX. The alien ships continued to fire, but each blast was more a desperate attempt to slow the inevitable than a real threat. The Mark IX fired again. A massive beam of energy shot out from the ship's front cannon, and before anyone could react, it collided with one of the largest alien cruisers. The blast sent shockwaves through the enemy fleet, causing multiple ships to break apart. The cruiser's remains were scattered across space like debris from a shattered world. The remaining alien vessels hesitated for just a moment, trying to assess the situation, but it was too late. The second shot from the Mark IX was even more devastating. The AI locked onto the nearest ship and fired with pinpoint accuracy. This time, the beam cut through the alien vessel as if it were made of paper. The ship was torn in two, its remains drifting helplessly into the void. Yalorth's fleet was no longer a force to be reckoned with. Panic spread like wildfire through the ranks. Their ships were falling, their greatest weapon destroyed, and the legendary Titan battleship had just begun to show its true power. There was no escaping it. Inside the Mark IX's control room, the human operators, who had long ago left their planet for the unknown, watched the unfolding battle on their monitors. They had been waiting for this moment, for the day when Earth would rise once more as a power in the galaxy. Their eyes were filled with pride, but there was no room for mercy. Earth had been mocked, ignored, and underestimated. Now, humanity was returning to remind the universe of its strength. The ship's AI calculated the alien fleet's movements, predicting their next strike with cold precision. Each alien ship was outmatched, each missile fired ineffective. The Mark IX moved effortlessly through space, its weapons annihilating any vessel that even dared to get close. Earth was no longer a joke, had become the nightmare of the galactic empire. Yalorth watched as his fleet was torn apart, his heart sinking with each passing moment. This was not how he had planned it. He had expected to return to the Empire with a swift victory, a demonstration of their undeniable superiority. Instead, he was now watching his entire fleet crumble under the firepower of a forgotten warship, a relic from a time when Earth was more than just a weak planet hiding behind. Its walls, send word to the fleet, Yulorth commanded, his voice trembling. Earth's weapon must be stopped. We cannot allow this to continue. But deep inside the Mark IX, the AI calculated that nothing short of total destruction could stop the alien threat. Humanity would not be ignored anymore. And the Titan-Battleship Mark IX was just the beginning. The first strike the atmosphere was electric with tension. The alien fleet, now reduced to mere remnants of its former strength, scattered across the stars in disarray. Their once unshakable confidence had dissolved into fear and confusion. Commander Yulorth, who had previously been so certain of the Empire's dominance, found himself now scrambling to regain control of the situation. The Mark IX, however, was in total control, with its massive engines powering it forward. The battleship's immense presence loomed over the alien fleet. Its guns locked onto targets with mechanical precision, and its weapons systems hummed with anticipation. It had been centuries since it had fought, but the Mark IX was a weapon of perfection, built with a singular purpose to protect Earth at all costs. The first blast from its primary cannon struck the heart of the alien formation. The beam sliced through the darkness of space, bright as a star. The closest alien ship never stood a chance. Before the crew inside could even react, the energy from the beam turned their vessel into a cloud of debris, drifting helplessly into the void. Impossible, Yulorth cried, his hands slamming against the armrest of his command chair. His ship shook with the shockwave from the blast, and his crew scrambled to maintain control. "What have we done?" he muttered under his breath. They had underestimated Earth. They had mocked humanity's strength, and now they were paying for it. The alien fleet was in complete chaos. Some ships tried to flee, while others scrambled to regroup. They attempted to fire their own weapons, desperate to find any way to defend themselves, but it was futile. Every blast from their ships either missed or was neutralized by the Mark IX's impenetrable shields. Each time they fired, the human warship responded with brutal force. Commander Yulorth gave frantic orders to his officers. Send all remaining ships on a flanking maneuver. We need to strike at the Mark IX from all sides. It can't block all of us. But even as he spoke, his voice filled with a sense of dread. The power that Earth now wielded was beyond anything his fleet had faced before. It was as if they were trying to fight a storm with nothing but paper and cloth. The next volley from the Mark IX was even more devastating. The ship's weapon systems analyzed the movements of the enemy fleet, targeting the next group of ships with absolute precision. The AI within the Mark IX worked quickly, calculating the best angles and power levels for each strike. The alien ships, once confident in their superiority, were now realizing they were caught in a deadly trap from the depths of the Mark IX's hull. A barrage of smaller energy cannons unleashed, hitting the remaining enemy ships with pinpoint accuracy. One by one, they crumpled under the fire, their shields collapsing before they even had a chance to retaliate. The aliens' advanced technology, once seen as the epitome of strength, now seemed weak and fragile compared to humanity's hidden weapon. Yulorth watched in horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled. His most powerful warships, each designed to destroy entire planets, were reduced to nothing more than floating debris. The Titan-Battleship Mark IX was an unstoppable force, and no matter how much the aliens tried to counterattack, they were outmatched at every turn. In the command center of the Mark IX, The human operators who had awoken the ship stood silent. They watched the battle unfold on their monitors. The weapons had fired, the enemies had fallen, and the mission was clear. Earth would no longer be a passive player in the galactic game. Humanity was returning to the stars with force, and the rest of the galaxy would need to reckon with that. One of the operators, a veteran from Earth's military past, looked at the screen, his face grim. "This is what we've been waiting for," he said quietly. "The galaxy thought we were weak. They thought we were just a relic of the past. It's time to show them who we really are." The ship's artificial intelligence chimed in. "Primary. Targets neutralized. Alien fleet forces have been rendered ineffective." The AI's calm tone only underscored the severity of the situation. While the alien fleet had been powerful, they had underestimated the capabilities of Earth's weapon. Now, the battle was nearly over, but the message had been sent. The Titan-Battleship Mark IX had reawakened, and it was more than capable of defending Earth from any threat, no matter how powerful. As the battle raged on, Yoloth's voice wavered. He gave the order for his ships to retreat, but it was too late. The remaining alien vessels turned to flee, but the Mark IX pursued them relentlessly. With a final burst of speed, the Titan battleship fired one last devastating shot. The beam struck the rear of the largest alien ship, and in an instant, it was torn apart. The ship's remains scattered across space, a final reminder of the Empire's folly. With the destruction of the last ship, silence fell over the battlefield. The alien fleet had been crushed, obliterated by a force they had never even known existed. Yoloth's ship was the last to remain in space, its engines sputtering, weakened by the devastating attack. The remaining alien commanders, having witnessed the complete annihilation of their forces, knew that they had been outclassed. Yaloth's defeat was inevitable. Earth had proven that it was far more dangerous than the Galactic Empire had ever anticipated. The Titan battleship Mark X turned away from the wreckage, its mission complete. It had not only defended Earth, but had sent a clear message to anyone who dared to challenge humanity. Earth was no longer the weak, forgotten planet it once was. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. In the quiet aftermath, as the Mark IX glided back toward Earth, the operators on board knew the war had only just begun. This battle was just the first step in a larger plan, one that would reshape the future of humanity in the galaxy. And as the remnants of the alien fleet drifted in space, humanity's victory echoed across the stars. The Titan battleship Mark IX had crushed them, and Earth had sent its loud, unmistakable message: we are no longer a joke. The final stand, the remnants of the once mighty alien fleet drifted in space, broken and scattered. Silence hung in the air as the echoes of battle faded into the vast emptiness of the cosmos. What had once been a confident and fearsome military force was now a shattered shadow, struggling to hold together after the relentless onslaught of Earth's forgotten. Titan battleship Mark IX, Commander Yoloth's ship, was one of the last to remain intact, its shields flickering weakly as it hovered in the darkness. The alien fleet had been obliterated, and now only a handful of ships, including his own, were left. But despite the defeat, the Galactic Empire wasn't ready to accept the truth. They had lost. Yoloth's orders came out cold and determined. A last-ditch effort to salvage the situation. "Send a distress signal. Call for reinforcements," he barked, his eyes still glued to the view screen, where the Titan battleship Mark IX slowly hovered. "If we don't fight back now, we'll never be able to face the Empire again." This must be our final stand. On board the Mark IX, the humans who had once again activated the ship now watched their victory unfold. They could see the alien fleet, scattered and desperate, trying to regroup. The destruction had been swift, and yet they weren't finished. Earth's greatest weapon had unleashed its wrath upon the invaders, but there was still more to do. "Do we stop here?" one of the operators asked, his voice low. He had seen countless battles, but this one felt different. This was a battle, not just for survival, but for humanity's place in the universe. The ship's AI, with its cold, calculated voice, responded, "No, the enemy is in retreat, but they are not yet defeated. Prepare to finish what we started." Humanity's enemies had made a grave mistake by underestimating Earth. They had thought of it as a primitive, helpless planet, ripe for the taking. Now, with the ancient Titan-Battleship Mark IX in action, the aliens were realizing just how wrong they had been as the Mark IX prepared for its next assault. Yelorth's voice came through on the comms, demanding a response. "We have lost enough ships. There is no honor in retreat. All remaining forces make ready for a final strike. We will show Earth that the Empire does not yield." But his words were filled with doubt. The once proud galactic empire had crumbled under the weight of humanity's fury. No matter how hard they tried to salvage their fleet, the truth remained undeniable. Earth had awakened, and with it, a force that would never be overlooked again. The remaining alien ships formed a circle, an attempt at some semblance of order amidst the chaos. They powered their weapons and began to charge toward the Mark IX, but it was futile. The Titan-Battleship Mark IX, despite its age, moved with the grace and precision of a predator. Its weapons were locked onto the enemy fleet before they even had a chance to strike. The AI calculated the best possible trajectory, and with a single command, the ship fired again. The first shot hit the closest ship with pinpoint accuracy, obliterating it in a single blast. There was no mercy. The remaining ships tried to fire back, but they were no match for the Mark IX's shields. Each alien ship that attempted to get within range was met with a devastating barrage. The Mark IX's cannons roared again, and another. Alien ship disintegrated into a burst of sparks and debris. Yelorth watched in helpless fury as his ships were torn apart one by one. He tried to call for reinforcements, but the distance between his fleet and the nearest Empire stronghold was far too great. The enemy had come to Earth, and now they were going to learn the hard way just how powerful humanity could be. Desperation set in as the alien ships, now few in number, tried to break free of the Mark IX's unrelenting assault. They had hoped for an advantage, a way to regain their honor, but Earth's Titan battleship had already sealed their fate. There is no escape. The AI's voice echoed across the Mark IX's control room. Enemy fleet neutralized, but Yelorth's face was pale, his mind racing with disbelief. How could this be happening? He had led the Empire's greatest fleet, but now he was watching as it crumbled before his eyes. Earth's weapon had not just defeated them, it had utterly humiliated them. The once proud aliens, who had thought themselves invincible, were now cowering before humanity's might. Prepare for final escalation. Yelorth ordered, knowing full well that there was nothing left to save. There will be no mercy. But the alien ships were too few to fight back, and the Mark IX was too powerful to stop. With every passing second, humanity's strength became undeniable. Echoing through the void of space like a resounding drumbeat, the last of the alien ships were quickly destroyed their remaining commanders unable to mount any sort of resistance. The Titan-Battleship Mark IX unleashed its final barrage, a massive explosion that erased the last remnants of the Empire's fleet. The message was clear. Earth was no longer a weak, forgotten world. Earth was a force that the galaxy could no longer ignore. As the battle came to a close, the silence that followed was deafening. Yelloth's ship drifted, now nothing more than a lifeless hulk, its once proud hull now twisted and scorched. The remaining alien forces had either fled or were completely wiped out. In the control room of the Mark IX, the humans sat back, exhausted but proud. They had fought to protect their home, and they had won. For the first time in centuries, Earth's fate was in their hands again. The AI's final words echoed through the ship's command center. Mission complete. Earth is safe. The enemy has been neutralized, but this is only the beginning. And as the Titan battleship Mark IX slowly turned to face Earth, its mission was clear. Humanity had awoken, and no force in the galaxy would dare to challenge them again.